Hey everyone, did you ever reach in your pocket and find a $20 bill that you didn't know that you had? Wasn't it a great surprise? So, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Microsoft 365 and Microsoft List and how they've just dropped an awesome little surprise in your pocket too. You may not realize it's in there right now, but we're going to go over it a little bit. We're going to talk about how you can create and manage lists that you use in your law firm every day. Things like medical records requests, maybe inventories or assets, hiring steps, case management steps, things like that, and many other things. But really quick, if you don't know who I am, I'm Jim Gast, and I am a law firm technology, cybersecurity, and business speaker and advisor. And this is No Law Firm Left Behind. I'm joined today right now by Vinny. Dave dumped out. He'll be right back in. He's having some technical problems. Vinny, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. Hey, I just want to say $20 in my pocket just buys me lunch today now.
Really, no doubt about that. So Dave will be back, and we'll say hi to him when he joins. So Dave, Vinny, maybe we can keep an eye on this set there for him, okay? Yep. But real quick, we're going to talk about how you can start using Microsoft Lists to organize those lists that you need to keep in your law firm. Things that don't necessarily have a home. Maybe you use them regularly. Maybe you just need a list to accomplish a task, an impromptu task or an impromptu project, right? We're going to talk about Microsoft Lists, how you can create those, where you can put them, and how you can share them. So, Vinny, yesterday, me, you, and Dave were talking about Microsoft Lists. And we were comparing two different things, right? We were comparing law firms that have case management applications, practice management applications, and law firms that don't, right? Do you remember that? Do you remember what we were saying about how if you've got a case management program, you may have a home for a lot of different things, but there's always going to be those outlier lists that just don't fit in it?
Yeah, I think that Microsoft List is good to fill that gap. Right. There are certain things that our system, even our system, like the system that we use at SpliceNet, right, to keep track of all our work. There's certain things that it doesn't do very well, or it doesn't have at all. And Jim and I use Lists and Planner and other things to fill those gaps. And same with the practice management side of things. We will have there are a lot of great features in some of these applications out there, but they don't do everything. And this is one of those tools out there that you have. If you have your Microsoft 365 license, you get it for free. This is one of those tools that Microsoft's offering now that can help fill that gap. And I suspect that it's going to grow and get some more automation behind it, or get some more tools integrated into it so that we can use it more and more.
Well, so Dave spent some time investigating yesterday a little bit further, right? I mean, we've started using it ourselves, and I said, hey, Dave, here's what I want to do. I want to talk about it to people theoretically, right? And give them some insight as to what it does and what it can do. And then, from a very basic functionality perspective, right? Just making lists, putting dates on it, maybe tracking it. And then I said, but Dave, here's what I want you to do. I want to talk like the second half of the show towards the end about some of the automation that it can do. So, Vinny, one of the things we talked about was, and I mentioned here before, was medical records request. Now, not a lot of applications, case management applications, really do that well, right? You have to set particular systems for yourself to remind yourself in a PI case, for example, or any case where you got to do records request. You have to set ticklers, to-dos, tasks, and so on and so forth. I really think that that Microsoft List can fill that void, especially for something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And we're using it again, like we're using it for that particular purpose, right? If we have a list of things that we want to accomplish, it's not really a feature functionality. It's built into our system, and we're keeping track of those items there, right?
Yeah.
And we can put notes, and we can put the to-do dates, and then all that other stuff, all that fun stuff. But from a as you work with clients, and you might have a checklist to say, I need to collect all these items, right? Some systems have that, some systems don't. right? And this is a good tool for that.
One of the things now, obviously, I'm not going to build on a medical records request process, but these things can be created in Microsoft List. I'm going to pop my screen up here in a little bit. You might want to Teams Dave and see if he's doing okay. But I'm going to pop up my screen here and show you Microsoft List and how to get to it. So let me go ahead and pop that up real quick. And I know if you're listening to this on podcast, you don't get the full benefit of this, but by all means, go find the video. And I'll put a link in the podcast for the video. But this is Microsoft List, and how to find it. Well, it's not an on desktop application. It is a web-based application. And then as Dave was nice to tell me today, there he's joining us up again. Dave, have we got you?
I'm here.
Oh, fantastic. I was just going to start talking about how lists is technically kind of not new. Do you want to kind of cover that?
Yeah. So the thing with lists is that it really is it's built on the long-standing SharePoint list, but it's kind of been broken out. So when you see lists here in Teams, it's really running off that SharePoint back end. It's just been tweaked and made a lot more user-friendly, and so it's retained a lot of the power of the original SharePoint list, but it's a whole lot easier to use, and especially with it being integrated into Teams, it makes it a whole lot more accessible for people.
Yeah, what I was saying about it is that, and you can see it on the screen, it is not a desktop application. It is a web-based application, but one of the really cool things about it is twofold. One, there's an app for it for your phone. So these lists that you create for your firm, you can have those lists available on your phone, just like any other Microsoft 365 app. So I think that's really cool. Whether they come out with a desktop app in the future or not, I'm not really sure. But I do know that it can also be included in Microsoft Teams. So you can embed it in any channel of Microsoft Teams. And so we had given an example in the past about how to split your cases out and how to organize them. And what this does now is it gives you the ability to keep checklists or various lists on your cases that are split out and organized in Microsoft Teams as a tab in that channel that's specific to it. So, guys, you mind if I just kind of show a little bit about it?
Do it.
Cool. All right. So, how to get the Microsoft list? You log in your Microsoft 365. And it would be one of your icons in your waffle list, right? In your applications list. So I just came into it. You can click on the header here and it takes you back to the main list screen. We have a few lists that we set up here as examples. I created an employee onboarding list. And so that's just an example. I'm going to go to new lists here. And when you click on new list, what did you learn about importing from Excel and a couple other things, Dave?
I mean,
you said you were telling me about somebody using Microsoft Forms that was creating an Excel spreadsheet or something along those lines?
No. It was not Excel. It was because of the integration and the automation with Power Automate, we have the ability to, say, for example, take an online form, a Microsoft form, and capture data and populate a list and then use that data for all kinds of various tasks.
Nice. Yeah, wow, that is really pulling all of Microsoft 365 together. Yep. Full integration. Yep. Well, one of the things that when you create a list, you see these templates, you can create these templates yourself and reuse them over and over again. So if it is medical records requests for a particular case, you can actually create it over and over again, or an employee onboarding, or so on and so forth, right? But I'm going to go ahead and hop into an employee onboarding that I just built. These lists, let me pop back there. I wanted to show something. Notice how it says my lists here. So this is mine. I'm not sharing this list with anyone else, okay? So it will be kept in a separate place for you. However, this one right here and this one right here, these are actually part of a group in Microsoft 365. This one happens to be the human resources group, one of the human resources group, and this one happens to be the sales group. Both of these happen to be in our organization associated with the Microsoft Microsoft Teams channel. And so they're available in those channels, and we use them regularly. So I'm going to pop over here to the employee onboarding. And so it's really simple. I mean, it really is simple to use. If you want to customize it, you add a column, take away a column, lots of different options for adding and taking away columns. Dave, I was asking yesterday, did you happen to find, and I don't know the answer to it, but I'm very curious, can a list draw from another list? Did you happen to find that one out?
So I did not get a chance to
no worries. No worries. Yeah. But nevertheless, I mean, put things like hyperlinks, checkboxes, dates and times, and lots of little bit of automation there, Dave. I don't want to go too far into the automation yet, but we were talking about alerting your team members when you add something or change something on the list.
Yep. There's a number of built-in automations. Or when I say built-in, what I mean is pre-developed. So if you look at the automate menu up at the top, go ahead and click on that, Jim.
Where's that at? Automate menu. Oh,
yep.
There we go.
So go to Power Automate.
There we go.
There are a number of different flows, and this is part of the consistent rebranding that's taking place. A flow is an automation. All right. Now, you can use these automations to alert people via email, push notification, text message if you have the right integration set up. For a lot of different things. So let's say you assign something to somebody.
So let me actually click on this confidentiality agreement, Dave.
Go ahead and do that.
There's some things in here actually that I think would be very beneficial. So, hey, I've assigned it to somebody, or I've completed it, or something like that, right? Is that something you queue on?
Yes.
Okay. So if we,
like I said, because it's based off of the old, I keep saying old, because it's based on SharePoint lists, there is this rich set of tools behind the scenes that you can act on so many different conditions of the data. So you could kick off an automation based on data being entered, data being updated, toggle button being toggled, et cetera, et cetera.
Nice. So really does, in a sense. So, this is something that we really touched on a tiny bit yesterday. In a sense, this could almost be, if you don't have a practice management application, you could do a little bit of practice management with something like this. I mean, you've always had that ability.
So, here's the thing.
It goes far, right?
Let's talk about lists here for a second as far as its use case. And I think you were going to talk about that, Jim, but the main lead in to this is there are obviously full-on dedicated programs that are developed and sold, and they can be very expensive. They can be very challenging to implement. If you're doing practice management, there are dedicated practice management systems, but you can also do sort of a practice management light in lists. And then, Jim, just taking some of those that we talked about yesterday, there's a number of other thoughts that you had about ways that it can fill really valuable niche needs. So did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my thought, I mean, if you think about a law firm, right, what's the most important thing in a law firm? Well, they're clients, right? And so you can build a client list. Okay. That's the simplest thing, a client list, contact information, and everybody can share that list, and nobody has to say how do I get to that contact? How do I find that, how do I find that telephone number, that email address, right? And so from that, that's one example, right? Another example, medical records request. That Dave, Vinny, I've never found anything that does that slick. Okay.
So I remember we tried one in Time Matters years ago with custom records. And it just was still very challenging to make it work smoothly.
Yeah. So,
hey, James, how you doing? We got James Clark saying hello. Hey, James. Good to see you.
So, one of the things about that's an example, right? But, those are things that are specific to the practice of law, right? Maybe you have assets or inventories in bankruptcy or divorce, right? Make a list of those. Keep in mind that you have if you're using Teams in the way that we kind of talked about in our videos for using Microsoft Teams for law firms, you're splitting out your law firms in channels potentially or different ways in there. Mm-hmm. And so you create a list and then you add that list as a tab for that specific case. So these things don't overlap. Just because I've got a medical records request list, it doesn't mean it's all of our medical records requests for all of our cases. Maybe that's appropriate. Maybe that's not appropriate. That's up to each individual firm. Same things with assets and inventories. We're not going to have that for all of our cases. We're going to have it for a subset of our cases. We're going to have a list for each one of them. And so that's an example. The other thing, there's a lot of things that are coming in all the time. We're getting calls, we're hiring people, so on and so forth. All those things can be processes very simply in Microsoft lists. And if for example, these templates don't have what you want in them, it's not a problem to actually add them or edit them. Maybe I need put a date and time to, deadline needs to be done by. Right. And then it's a date and time field. Maybe I don't need to include time. Maybe it needs to be in friendly format. Sure. What's the default value? Is it even calculated? And boom, I've added that field. So when I come into the confidentiality agreement, I can come down here and edit it and say it needs to be done by this date right here. And so it's a way to start organizing things that don't necessarily fit in other places to your practice. And I also think it's a way to maybe if you're a small firm, you don't want to make the huge investments into practice management applications. I also think it's a way to start basic management. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Great way to replace all those Excel sheets, all those manual checklists filed away somewhere, all those different things that people are doing now to fit that need. Right.
Yeah.
This centralizes it, puts it up in the cloud, and makes it so that everyone can access it. I mean, it's just so many different advantages. Yep.
And Vinny, you mentioned Excel, and Dave, you talked about Excel before too. Mm-hmm. I really think Excel is great, but the reason people use Excel many times isn't for its main purpose. Its main purpose really is for calculations and keeping numbers, right, guys? It's not meant for lists, although we all do, right? And so this is a really cool opportunity for people to stop using Excel spreadsheets and actually kind of move into the official database type of environment, right? And start normalizing data a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, with some caution there. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was actually doing a little bit of reading to see if they've implemented lookup fields yet in lists, and I don't see it implemented yet. Yeah. I see it on the roadmap, but then again, I was just looking at this, and a number of the concerns of that is people getting overly reliant on trying to create relational structures in lists, and it can cause, problems if you don't know how to do it right.
Yeah.
And so while you're absolutely right, Jim, just be cautious trying to do too much. It's not SQL.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In SharePoint lists, and to talk about the SharePoint list could draw on other lists. Exactly. So if it's not already here, we're not going to dig deep into functionality for you here. But if it's not already here, you could guarantee it's probably coming eventually. They're always improving all of these things.
It's an awesome Swiss Army knife kind of tool that you can really mold to whatever needs your firm has.
And so really simply, guys, great surprise. Microsoft kind of popped in on most people. See, I think, and we're going to kind of end on this, if you don't mind. SharePoint's great. Love SharePoint. Fantastic application. Most people only think of it for document storage, but it is really so much more. And the problem is that people aren't utilizing it for that so much more. By pulling Microsoft lists, and this isn't the first one they pulled out, by pulling Microsoft Lists out of SharePoint and actually putting it as a user-friendly tool and giving it to everybody that's had SharePoint access for a long time, it really becomes a nice play for a lot of law firms. Great.
It really does.
So, well, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and cut out. Real quick, I wanted to remind you that if you're not a member of the No Law Firm Left Behind group on LinkedIn, here's our wonderful link. Join No Law Firm Left. Go there, and we put all of our videos in this group. Lots of legal professionals in the group. And if you can't remember this wonderful link, just go ahead and search it on LinkedIn, No Law Firm Left Behind, and then you'll find the group. So, Dave, Vinny, thanks a lot. Great show.
Thanks, Jim. As always.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Take care.
Bye.